So to set the stage, this is a match between Saint and Mr. Naps during the 2013 Tekken Global Championships. This was when Saint was still a relatively unknown player, because he was well known in Korea, but he wasn't traveling to other countries yet. I would argue that because he won this entire tournament, the Global Championships, they gave him the confidence to start competing internationally. So anyways, this is a pretty fascinating match to me because not only is it an interesting clash of playstyles, but I also notice the two players mirroring each other's energies. And this is all to say that during this match, I noticed a lot of mashing. A lot of calculated mashing though, right? That's the theme of this video. It's a term in Japan, they call it Abare. It's this concept of challenging your opponent's follow-up actions, even though you might not have the frame advantage to do so. So you're doing things that may seem irrational on paper, but against your opponent at that particular moment in time, it's highly effective. And that's how you should be approaching fighting games. Your strategy should be influenced on a player-by-player basis. That's what they mean by constantly adapting to your opponent. So in one corner you got Jimmy J. Tran, the fundamental lab monster. Insane amounts of knowledge and execution. He's the American that plays like a Korean. In the other corner you have Saint, cold, calculating, ruthless, an extremely solid player. But he's also not afraid to turn up the crazy when needed. This is not to say that Naps can't Abare, but in these couple of matches, it seems like Saint had a bit of an edge. So let's watch these matches and see where that edge is created. For this analysis, I've created what I like to call an Abare counter. Basically, counting how many times a player mashes. So what does it mean to attempt an Abare? I'm going to define it as anytime you attack when you're minus. So if you press a button when you're not supposed to, that's an Abare. If you attempt a parry, reversal, or tag cancel, that's an Abare. If someone sidesteps, backdashes, or crouches when under pressure, I'm not going to count that as Abare, because that's generally low risk. An Abare is successful when you damage the opponent, whether it be an attack, a parry, or a tag cancel. You could even simply make the opponent block, and I would call that a success, because what you've done is effectively stolen a turn, and that's what Abare is all about. For trades, let's say that the player that deals more damage wins the Abare point. An Abare fails if you take damage, and also if you whiff an attack. Because if you're not making contact with the opponent, then you can get whiff punished, and that's counterproductive. We're trying to gain momentum, not lose it. Alright, now we can begin the match. Right off the bat, Naps gets a launch punish and opts to go for a tag bufferable combo to deal unrecoverable damage. It's very early in the round, so there's no reason to go for tag assault and give your opponent rage. And now we're starting to see the Abare from Saint. It's coming out, and it's coming out very frequently too. Challenging at -4, challenging at -3, and challenging at -7. He's really trying to stay in Naps' face, but he whiffs a grab and gets launched for his troubles. The question now is, what's going to happen to all that red health? He makes the correct read and tags out. And now there's a Ganryu in rage. Naps tags out too, back to neutral, gets a whiff punish. Notice that Saint does not go for tag assault, because tag assault consumes red health. He allows Naps to tag in safely. Saint tries to block punish the string, but is a couple frames too late. In the second round, we see Naps outmaneuvering Saint pretty well in order to get a whiff punish. Here Naps does go for the tag assault because he has a considerable lead. It's a very optimized combo, and he forces a tag crash, making Saint lose all of that red health. So that's actually a pretty good call on his part. So right off the bat, Naps is doing everything right, and he has a considerable lead. Let's see what Saint can do to swing the momentum around in his favor. Alright, now Naps is getting very offensive, trying to close out the match. Abare. Abare. See, the Abare was able to save Saint's life right there. With the correct mash, he was able to create enough hesitation to squeeze in a safe tag. Unfortunately, the life deficit was just too much to make up. Saint starts off the third round with a keep out headbutt, but overall we're seeing this theme continue. It's a lot of aggression early in the round from Saint. He's trying to really stay in Naps' face and test the waters, seeing what he can get away with. And right now he's getting away with a lot. As you can see, at -7 he goes into a 10 frame headbutt. Naps doesn't tag crash, he throws out a keep out shoulder but gets whiff punished by Saint. Fortunately, the wall saves his life. See, if you notice, besides that huge wall splat combo, most of the damage that Saint is dealing is all due to pokes, mental frames, and string mix-ups, and a constant pinning of Naps against the wall. Naps continues to play passively, using movement to find an opening to strike, but just when he decides to run in, he gets hit in the face with a keep out down for 2. Alright. Random mid soccer kick. Saint doesn't punish, but instead he throws. Catches the back roll into a very, very good wall carry combo. Saint creates space for a tag crash, but Naps tags in normally, and he keeps himself safe with an Abare tag cancel. Naps does an unsafe string, gets block punish. The knockdown allowed him to tag in safely. He does a tag slide into a throw, and not only that, it switches sides, so now Naps has his back to the wall again. And then Naps gets whip punished by Saint into a huge wall splat combo. It's very interesting what's happening so far. Every time someone has won a round, it's because they were able to carry to the wall first and apply wall pressure. But Saint seems to survive much longer at the wall because he's really good at mashing. Every time he challenges, he makes sure to at least make contact with Naps, so that he can avoid getting whip punished. I can't say the same for Naps because every time he retaliates at the wall, he gets whip punished by Saint. But currently things are looking really good for Naps. He just has to maintain this momentum. The key difference I'm noticing this time around is once Naps gets the life lead, he's not letting Saint breathe as much. Anytime Saint Abares, Naps responds with his own Abare, so it becomes a scramble. A scramble where Naps has more health. Because Naps did a tag throw that side switched, the match somehow has shifted back to being mid-screen. But because he didn't break this crucial throw right here, Naps goes from almost winning the round to almost losing the round. But Naps finally tag crashes for the first time, and that's really important because now he's no longer pinned against the wall. As we enter this second match, let's continue to think about wall pressure and pay attention to who's able to apply it the most. Saint seems to get most of his whiff punishes when pressuring at the wall. But mid-screen though, we see the majority of the whiff punishes actually comes from Mr. Naps. It does kind of make me wonder whether or not Naps could have performed better if they were playing on an infinite stage. But currently Naps is in a pretty good position. He manages to punish the tag in, but does not get a clean wall splat. And in the span of a couple of seconds with some good defense and movement, Saint is able to move away from the wall. He's using a combination of delay string mix-ups and Abare to continue his offense. Naps gets away with a couple of risky mashes and is able to sidestep away from the wall as well. Naps gets a really good whip punish, but it's not optimized enough to win him the round. This is very dangerous because now Saint is able to tag crash and pressure Naps at the wall instead. Naps pushes back to the middle of the screen with some jab pressure, but he gets his forward 3 stepped and whip punished. Saint does an extremely fast low from crouch and wins the round. I think Naps could have survived if he tag crashed immediately, but yeah, it is what it is. The second round starts off with a neutral orbital heel into a successful wall carry. It is a little odd that he decided to go for tag assault so early, but I guess he was setting up for something really big, like Tonjet upper. Now he has to deal with a bob and rage for 7 seconds. Let's see how much mileage Saint can get out of this. Fortunately for Naps, nothing too crazy happens. And unfortunately, Saint delays his up forward 1+2, 1+2 a little too much, and he gets launched into a tag bufferable combo. And now we have a similar situation to the first round, with Naps cornering Saint at the wall. He takes a bit of damage, but ultimately Saint is able to sidestep right away from the wall. Saint lands a keep out crouch dash 1 on counter hit, converts into a tag assault but drops the combo, allowing Naps to tag in Brian with rage. Saint tries to bait Naps into ducking, but he doesn't bite and holds his ground pretty well. He tries to Abare with down 2-3, but it's not a counter hit, so he gets block punished. Saint tries to go for the tag punish, but gets hit with a tag cancel. This is a pretty good momentum swing for Naps, as he successfully punishes a tag in, steals a turn, and outmaneuvers Saint's retaliation for the win. This third round demonstrates very well the importance of momentum, because it starts off pretty normally, pretty slowly, but once Saint lands this throw that side switches, it all goes downhill for Naps, and it snowballs extremely fast. Naps does a high jab, which gets ducked and launched into a wall carry combo, into a tag assault combo, into a pretty good Oki. He opts to not tag crash, which I respect, but unfortunately he gets clipped by a safe sidestep 1+2, which wall splats and kills him. And that's the entire round, just like that. Literally a 23-second round. He definitely does not want to repeat that again, so let's see what happens here. Naps tries to do an orbital heel but gets floated out of it and carried to the wall. Does he sacrifice the red health or does he stand his ground? He takes one grounded hit, side rolls, and then tag crashes, so he delays it by a little bit. Naps does down back 3, converts into a full wall carry combo. He goes for an optimal tag assault combo, giving Bob rage, punishes the tag in, and now let's see if he can give Saint a taste of his own medicine. Saint whips a move but gets away with it, but ultimately Naps is still able to keep on the pressure pretty well. He side switches with a 2 throw, and now tag crash is on the table for Saint, which he uses. Naps anticipates a crouch jab, so he low crushes. Doesn't work the first time, but it works the second time. The up forward 4 conversion leads to a side splat, which Naps converts into a bound, winning him the round. And now we have ourselves another Dabaru Richi. Final round. If you notice, Naps always is able to get off to a very good start in the beginning, but his lead slowly slips away as Saint is able to do something to always make a comeback. Gets another neutral orbital into wall carry into tag assault, goes for a setup, manages to force a tag crash. We see that Naps doesn't want to deal with the wall, so he uses plus frames to push back to mid-screen. But Saint wants no part of those plus frames, so he mashes and steals back his turn. And we're right back where we started. And we can see here that Saint is getting really comfortable with his risk-reward. He knows what strings he can get away with now, and he's starting to abuse that fact. Naps tries to high crush the down 4-2 extensions with a snake edge, but Saint is a bit too sharp, and he blocks it. In the final match, Saint continues to show no fear, throwing out launcher after launcher with no repercussions. Naps tries to throw out a launcher too, but it gets punished. It feels like Saint has this invisible wall of defense that's preventing Naps from getting in. And because Saint is cycling between keep out and rush down, it makes it difficult for Naps to find a reliable way to deal damage. Naps does a good Abare here at -4, giving him enough breathing room to tag out to Brian. Saint switches to rush down, but gets counter hit by Brian while standing 3. It's funny how whenever Saint is carried to the wall, it doesn't feel that scary. At the wall, Naps is either respecting Saint too much or he goes for too many setups. And Saint doesn't seem like the player to fall for setups. Naps goes for an Abare at -5 but gets whiff punished. Unfortunately, Saint couldn't convert into a combo and gets whiff punished by Naps in return. And now we see a more reliable answer to Ganryu's down 4-2. Naps is just crouch jabbing the extensions. Naps then misses a crucial throw break and loses the round. It's crazy though, right? It's like Saint is pretending the wall doesn't exist. He just continues to run his offense. Naps continues to try to play a clean whiff punishment game by using safe pokes and Abare to prevent Saint from rushing him down. He also starts to use more keep out jabs as well. He denies the string mix up with a crouch jab, but then gets hit with a devastating Abare, and now Saint goes back to rushing him down. Naps tries to get him off his back with an Abare, but it doesn't work. It's terrifying how 1 second Saint is extremely aggressive and then the next second he's just in your face blocking. Naps gets a down back 3 but doesn't convert into a full combo. The jabs in tag 2 are kinda inconsistent. He then gets a favorable trade and gets a successful wall carry. Does a solo wall combo, tries to tag out to Brian but is a bit off axis. A bit of wall pressure here. Saint guesses wrong, is able to tag out. Good block from Naps into crouch cancel, mid soccer kick. Does a keep out snake edge but doesn't get punished. A lot of movement and a lot of neutral. No one wants to act first. Right now both players are just repositioning themselves. Saint is wave dashing and doing a pretty good job of realigning himself with Naps. And now the one jabs are coming out in full force. One of the most powerful ways to control the pace of a match is by winning the jab game, in my opinion. Saint gets a counter hit down 4-2 into tag assault into wall carry, and this is the first time someone has successfully baited out a tag crash, but he just gets a small punish. Here Naps gets a really decisive sidestep punish, and the combo almost seems to drop, but Naps knows what he's doing and he closes out the round. This is one of the most important rounds because I notice a change in the way Saint plays. He no longer Abares as much, and on the flip side, Naps starts to take a lot more unnecessary risks, which I find kinda strange. This is kind of what I mean in the beginning of the video, when I said that they mirrored each other's energies. Saint starts to play like Naps, and Naps starts to play like Saint, but Saint gets more mileage out of playing solid. A couple of good Abares from Naps, but he overextends himself a bit too much, and Saint is not letting these unsafe moves go unpunished. See, Saint is not even being that aggressive at the wall. He's just staying relatively close to Naps and observing. Pretty good, pretty solid. He punishes Brian's down 4-2-3 perfectly, and then closes out the round with a powerful low. At the start of this round, neither player is committing to anything big. Naps is spacing out his unsafe moves pretty well, followed by some Abares. Still getting mixed up by the strings. Tries to use some strings himself. Some keep out jabs from Naps. Excellent punish right there. Doesn't punish Saint's tag in. A frame perfect punish at 12 frames. The mid soccer kick can be hard to punish sometimes. He covers his raw tag with a tag cancel, catches the back roll with while standing 1, and then he does one of the coolest wall combos that you'll ever see. When it comes to combos, Naps doesn't disappoint. Saint lands a sidestep 1+2 and then gets a down 1 before tagging out. Naps does a keep out down back 3 but gets whiff punished by Saint. He stops his combo early to punish the raw tag. Again, the sidewall messes up the combo. Naps showcases some pretty good defense. He gets a low parry into some instant knees. He goes for a tangent upper but does it too early. Saint continues to annoy him with down 4-2 strings. Once again, Naps tries to high crush with snake edge, but it's just a little bit too risky against someone like Saint. And with that, Saint wins the set and moves on in the tournament. So when we look at our stats from all 3 matches, we see that Saint made 22 Abare attempts, while Mr. Naps made 27 Abare attempts. If we take the number of successful Abares and divide it by the total number of attempts, we see that Saint has a success rate of 63%, and Naps has a success rate of 66%. I might need to collect more data, but I'm willing to bet that most tournament players probably have a similar Abare success rate of around 60%. Because you have like a 80 or 90% success rate, that's a little too good. You're basically a robot at that point. And if your success rate is like 40%, 50%, it might be too low. You might not be intimidating enough to make it out of pools. So yeah, 60% success rate, that sounds about right. If you can aim for that, then you can be a pretty scary player. So if Saint and Naps both mash more or less the same amounts, and they're successful the same amount of times, can we draw any meaningful comparisons between these numbers? I think we're going to have to look at the data from a different angle. We're going to have to pay attention to how the Abare counter grows over time. I think that's more valuable for us. If you rewatch the set and quickly skim through the footage, what you'll see is initially Naps barely Abare, but he started doing a lot more towards the end. This tells me that Naps likes to play it safe during the beginning. Once he observes your patterns and has a read on you, he'll begin taking more risks accordingly. On the other hand, Saint's Abare counter starts changing immediately, meaning he starts taking risks right in the beginning of a set. That's how he likes to download, by seeing how much he can get away with and then slowly dialing back the risks towards the end. There are some other cool stats that I collected over the course of the match as well, so let's take a look at those. Saint drops 3 combos over the course of the set, Naps drops only 1 combo. Saint only does 2 tag bufferable combos, while Naps does 4. This is a bit surprising. It kind of goes against what I always thought was the smartest way to play tag 2, which is do more solo combos and tag buffers whenever you can and keep the tag assaults to a minimum. Because each time you do a tag assault, you give your opponent's tag partner rage and tag crash for free, and the damage that you inflict can always be recovered. But I guess Saint has shown that as long as your tag assault combos are optimized enough and you have the ability to close out the match fast enough, that recoverable health might not even matter. Saint forces a tag crash from Naps 3 times, and Naps forces a tag crash from Saint 4 times. If I recall correctly, all 7 of those tag crashes took place at the wall, and each time Naps opted to not tag crash, that was when he lost the round. So it just goes to show how scary the wall can be. Saint tag cancels 3 times, Naps tag cancels 10 times. Normally, if your opponent doesn't give you that much trouble, tag cancel is not that necessary. So the fact that Naps had to cover his raw tag 10 times shows how aggressive Saint was being. Saint gets 3 tag punishes, and Naps gets 4. This is not surprising to me. Anyone who's played Tag 2 knows how difficult it is to tag punish, because of the prevalence of tag cancel. When someone raw tags, they'll usually crouch jab, hop kick, snake edge, or parry. They'll do anything to keep themselves safe. So it's very difficult to reliably launch them for raw tagging. The best thing you can hope for is to stay close enough to the opponent, react to the raw tag, and then use your fastest whiff punishers. Both Saint and Naps demonstrated 5 instances of keep out, as far as I can tell. For Naps, it was mostly defensive jabs and the occasional orbital heal. For Saint, it was hard-hitting moves like Ganryu headbutt and down forward 2s. It's very apparent that Naps had much weaker keep out than Saint, because he was never able to keep Saint from dashing in his face and applying pressure. If you have strong keep out, you can prevent that from happening. Saint whiff punished 7 times, Naps whiff punished 9 times. Both players performed equally well in that regard, I would say. Saint got in 8 block punishes, Naps got in 9. Saint successfully did 3 wall splats. Naps did not get a single wall splat. Keep in mind, most of these were round-winning wall splats, so this just further demonstrates the strength of Saint's wall game. Saint was able to land 5 throws, and he broke 2 of them. Naps, on the other hand, landed 2 throws and broke 1. A very interesting thing I've noticed is that every time Saint landed a throw, it led to a combo or a very advantageous situation afterwards. Of the 2 times that Naps landed a throw, it always put his back against the wall, so it's actually kind of risky. Even so, I still think that Naps should have attempted more throws. Persistence wears down resistance. Saint successfully mixed Naps up with strings 10 times, and he denied 0. Naps, on the other hand, did 1 string mix-up and was able to deny 6 of them. You can see that Naps had most of the burden of defending against strings, and that's tough because that's mental energy that could have gone towards breaking throws and whiff punishing. You know, most people say strings are scrubby and aren't effective at a high level, but then you see Saint win the set and you can't help but think to yourself, maybe there is something useful about strings after all. The more I think about strings as they exist in Tekken, the more I view them as an evolution of the most basic string to exist in fighting games. What I'm referring to is Street Fighter's low forward into fireball. In Street Fighter 6 at least, crouching medium kick on block leaves you at -6. Because of this frame disadvantage, you generally cannot continue your offense, because you will always be counter hit. But because crouching medium kick can be cancelled into a fireball, you cannot always reliably take back your turn. There's always that threat of getting hit by a fireball if you press buttons. The fireball itself is punishable on block, but if you're always going to wait for the opponent to cancel into fireball, then your hesitation has created enough time for the Ken player to do crouching medium kick into another attack, creating what's known as mental frame advantage. Using the mental frames of string extensions to mount your offense is also known as stagger pressure, and is a very big part of games like Dragon Ball FighterZ and Mortal Kombat. This basically completes the mind game, and this is the theory of string extensions in fighting games in its purest form. We can see how the mechanics of string extensions is closely related to concepts of Abare, mashing, and turn stealing. It is the hesitation of getting hit afterwards that creates enough time for someone to attack when they're minus. So to go back to Tekken, Ganryu does down forward 2, which is punishable. You can try to punish him, but he can counter hit your punish by extending the string. If you can predict the string extensions, you can duck and launch. But Ganryu can extend the string to varying degrees, making duck and launch difficult. Not only that, he can also simply block after doing a single down forward 2, and that's basically the mind game. Personally, I don't think knowledge check strings are that interesting in fighting games. However, it can be annoyingly effective, even at a high level, so for that reason alone, strings should not be ignored. So in conclusion, it seems like the way Sane was able to correctly use risk and reward to challenge at the right times gave him that edge to win this match. And it's not just Naps that Saint was able to aggressively rush down. Right now on the screen, you're watching the grand final set between JDCR and Saint. And as you can see, the same kind of thing is taking place. Saint is playing in such a dominant fashion that it seems like JDCR is not even able to damage him that much. I think if players like JDCR and Naps mashed more, they could have challenged Saint's momentum a lot better. Mashing is very, very important. You have to be willing to send that message to your opponent that you refuse to be bullied and that you're willing to fight back. Only then will you be able to make the opponent respect you. And I don't mean respect in the sense of two people shaking hands. I mean tangible in-game respect. When you mash successfully, you can literally change the way the opponent interacts with you. And that's a very powerful thing. You don't want someone dashing in your face and doing whatever they want. If you can make someone respect you enough to freeze up and not do anything, you can capitalize on your opponent's hesitation, gain the momentum, and start your own offense. This is what I think Saint was able to do really well, and it's what allowed him to win the tournament. Being able to mash well is something anyone can do. There's no difference between low-level mashing and high-level mashing. The only difference is in the mentality behind the Abare, the thought process behind challenging your opponent's actions. When a high-level player mashes and it's successful, they are absolutely ready to capitalize on the momentum swing and make the most out of it. The low-level player will most likely not even recognize that there's an opportunity to take and will let it pass by them. I understand that all of this is much easier said than done. There will be times when you're fighting against a really good opponent and they'll have you questioning your decisions. If I mash against them, I die. If I don't mash, I also die. So what's the right answer? The truth is, there is no right answer in fighting games. There are only good enough guesses compounded over time. Your goal when playing fighting games should be to find the right balance of risk-reward, the right amount of mashing and not mashing, and turn that into a strategy where you damage the opponent much more than they are damaging you. That's usually a pretty good way to go about it. And on that note, I think this is a good time to end the video. So this is CutCC signing off. Until next time.